What if the world was never meant to rely on power lines, cables, and massive grids at all? What if, more than 100 years ago, one man figured out how to send energy through the Earth itself, and the idea was quietly buried before it could change everything? Nikola Tesla is remembered as one of the greatest scientific minds who ever lived, but some believe his most important discovery was never allowed to see the light of day. Long before Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, or wireless charging pads, Tesla was already obsessed with a radical idea. He believed electricity and information could move through the planet itself, instantly, without wires, and on a global scale, not broadcast through the air like modern radio waves, but carried through the earth like vibrations through a bell. To most people, it sounded impossible. To Tesla, it felt inevitable. Tesla arrived in America in 1884 with little money and even fewer connections. But he carried something far more valuable. He carried ideas that were decades ahead of their time. At first, he worked under Thomas Edison, one of the most powerful inventors in the country. The partnership didn't last long. Their views on electricity clashed, and disputes over money pushed Tesla away. That split would quietly change the course of history. Tesla walked away determined to prove his ideas could stand on their own. What followed was a streak of inventions that reshaped the modern world. Tesla's alternating current system beat out Edison's direct current, making it possible to send electricity over long distances. Power plants, cities, and entire nations would soon depend on AC electricity. His induction motor, transformers, and electrical theories became the backbone of the global power grid. By the late 1890s, Tesla wasn't just respected, he was seen as a visionary. But even that wasn't enough for him. While others focused on refining electricity, Tesla wanted to liberate it. He believed wires were a temporary solution, a crude stepping stone. His experiments with high voltage led to the invention of the Tesla coil, a device that could generate enormous electrical discharges. It wasn't just a spectacle. For Tesla, it was proof that energy behaved in ways science still didn't fully understand. That realization led him to a dangerous idea. Tesla became convinced the Earth itself could act as a conductor. He believed the planet behaved like a massive electrical sphere, capable of resonating at specific frequencies. If those frequencies were discovered and matched, energy could be sent anywhere, instantly. No cables, no limits, and, most importantly, no ownership. To test this theory, Tesla traveled to Colorado Springs in 1899. The location was carefully chosen. High altitude meant thinner air, perfect for electrical discharge experiments. The region was also famous for intense lightning storms, giving Tesla a natural laboratory to study electrical forces on a massive scale. With free electricity supplied by the local power company, Tesla built his most powerful machine yet, a device he called the magnifying transmitter. What happened next still sounds unreal. As Tesla ran his experiments, strange things began happening around town. People reported sparks jumping from the ground to their shoes. Metal water taps shocked anyone who touched them. Light bulbs glowed without being plugged in. Horses collapsed after being shocked through their metal shoes. Locals even claimed butterflies flew through the air surrounded by glowing halos of light. It felt less like science and more like something out of a nightmare. Behind closed doors, Tesla pushed his machine harder than ever. He created artificial lightning bolts, stretching more than 100 feet. He observed how energy traveled through the ground, and according to his own notes, he discovered something extraordinary. Tesla claimed he had identified the Earth's natural resonant frequencies. To him, this meant the planet could carry electrical energy the same way a tuning fork carries sound. If that was true, then his dream was no longer just theoretical. It was achievable. Tesla left Colorado Springs convinced he was right. But belief wasn't enough. To change the world, he needed proof. And to get that proof, he needed something far bigger, something permanent, something impossible to ignore. That idea became Wardenclyffe Tower. In 1901, Tesla purchased a large plot of land on Long Island, just outside New York City. The location was perfect, close to financial power, near transatlantic communication lines, and ideal for grounding massive electrical systems deep into the earth. With funding secured from financier J.P. Morgan, construction began on a tower unlike anything the world had ever seen. At first glance, Wardenclyffe looked like a strange wooden structure topped with a massive metal dome. But beneath the surface, it was far more complex. Iron shafts extended deep into the ground, designed to tap into the Earth's conductive layers. Tesla intended to use the tower like a giant Tesla coil, injecting energy into the planet at precise frequencies until the Earth itself began to resonate. Officially, Wardenclyffe was presented as a global wireless communication system. Tesla promised instant transmission of messages, images, and signals across continents. To investors like Morgan, that alone was revolutionary. Whoever controlled global communication would control the future. But Tesla had other plans. Behind the scenes, Tesla began expanding the tower's purpose. He believed Wardenclyffe could do more than send messages. He believed it could send power, electricity, delivered wirelessly to anywhere on Earth, free and accessible to anyone with the right receiver. According to Tesla, energy would travel through the ground and return through the atmosphere, creating a continuous global circuit. He even claimed the atmosphere itself would glow as electricity passed through it, lighting cities at night. That was the moment everything changed. Reports suggest Morgan was never told about the wireless power component. To a man whose fortune was tied to infrastructure, meters, and control, the idea of free electricity made no sense. If power couldn't be sold, it couldn't be owned, and if it couldn't be owned, it couldn't generate profit. Not long after Tesla began publicly hinting at free global energy, Morgan pulled the plug. Funding stopped abruptly. Construction slowed, then halted completely. Tesla scrambled for money, mortgaging the property and begging for new investors. But the moment investors realized there was no clear way to monetize the system, they vanished. Tesla's health declined. Debt piled up. The tower stood silent. By the time Wardenclyffe was officially abandoned, Tesla was financially ruined. His greatest project never went online. The world never saw whether it truly worked. And soon, even the tower itself was gone. The site was vandalized. Equipment was stripped for scrap. Eventually, explosives were placed at the base of the structure. The tower didn't fall right away. It leaned, broken and wounded, before finally collapsing. Tesla watched the physical destruction of his life's work while still alive. After his death in 1943, another strange chapter unfolded. Government officials seized Tesla's remaining papers and research. Some documents were later released. Others were never seen again. Rumors suggest certain discoveries were classified. No proof has ever confirmed this, but the mystery only deepened Tesla's legend. Decades passed, but the idea refused to die. In the 2010s, Russian physicists Leonid and Sergei Plekhanov attempted to revive Tesla's dream. Instead of focusing on communication, they targeted wireless energy transfer. Their vision was bold. A massive solar farm in the Sahara Desert could generate enough power for the entire planet. The problem wasn't production, it was distribution. Power lines over that distance would lose too much energy. But if Tesla was right, the Earth itself could solve that problem. They sought funding to build a modern Wardenclyffe-style tower. Investors weren't interested. Just like before, the issue wasn't science, it was profit. Free energy couldn't be controlled. Crowdfunding raised a fraction of what they needed, and the project collapsed. Another attempt appeared in Texas. A towering structure, visually similar to Tesla's design, rose into the sky. This time, engineers experimented with low-frequency radio waves instead of Earth resonance. The results were underwhelming. The company behind it went bankrupt. The tower was abandoned. Again and again, the same pattern repeated. Ambitious technology, promising theory, financial collapse. So was Tesla wrong? Or was he simply too early? Today, wireless charging exists. Energy transfer without physical connections is real. Scientists study Earth resonance and atmospheric electricity more seriously than ever. Concepts once laughed at are now standard research topics. Tesla's ideas, once dismissed as madness, continue to resurface. Maybe Wardenclyffe failed because the technology wasn't ready, or maybe the world wasn't. Tesla imagined a future where energy belonged to everyone, not corporations or governments. A future where power was as free as the air itself. And that idea still makes people uncomfortable. Even now, more than a century later, engineers and physicists still debate whether Tesla was chasing an illusion or standing on the edge of something far bigger than anyone else could comprehend at the time. What makes Wardenclyffe so unsettling isn't just that it failed, but that it was never truly tested. The system was shut down before it could be fully powered, before the Earth was allowed to respond. That unanswered question still lingers, and it's why Tesla's tower continues to attract so much attention long after its destruction. There's also the uncomfortable reality that, Tesla didn't think like a businessman, politician, or industrialist. He thought like a futurist. He believed technology should lift humanity as a whole, not be rationed or controlled. That mindset put him at odds with the very people who had the power to fund his work. In a world driven by ownership and profit, Tesla's vision was almost incompatible with success. Some researchers argue that Tesla underestimated the energy losses involved in global transmission. Others claim his understanding of Earth resonance was incomplete. But even critics admit something important. Tesla was often right about ideas long before the math or materials existed to support them. Radio, remote control, wireless communication, even concepts resembling modern drones and smartphones appeared in his writings decades before they became reality. That track record makes it difficult to dismiss Wardenclyffe entirely. What's especially strange is how often modern attempts stall, for reasons that have nothing to do with physics. Funding dries up, companies collapse, interest fades quietly, projects are shelved, not because they failed spectacularly, but because they never reach a decisive conclusion. To some, that pattern feels uncomfortably familiar, not proof of suppression, but enough to raise eyebrows. Today, the original Wardenclyffe site still exists. The brick laboratory building remains, restored as a museum dedicated to Tesla's legacy. Visitors walk through the space where history almost changed. They see diagrams, photographs, and fragments of a dream that never materialized. But the tower itself is gone, leaving behind an empty skyline and a much larger question. What if Tesla was right about one thing, even if he was wrong about others? What if the Earth really can be used as part of a global energy system, just not in the way he imagined? Modern science has already shown that the planet carries electrical currents. From lightning strikes to atmospheric charge layers, researchers now study natural resonances in the Earth ionosphere cavity, something Tesla claimed to observe long before it had a name. And that's the part that keeps pulling people back in. Tesla didn't have supercomputers, satellites, or advanced materials. He worked with intuition, experimentation, and relentless belief. If he saw patterns others missed, it wouldn't be the first time. It also wouldn't be the first time the world failed to recognize something revolutionary until much later. In many ways, Wardenclyffe Tower represents more than a failed experiment. It represents a crossroads. One path led to centralized grids, metered power, and corporate control. The other path, the one Tesla imagined, led to a world where energy flowed freely and invisibly, available to anyone, anywhere. Only one of those paths was financially convenient. Whether Tesla uncovered the secret to unlimited energy or simply chased the wrong solution to the right problem may never be fully answered. But the fact that his ideas continue to resurface, inspire, and unsettle suggests there's still something there worth questioning. Because, if the past has shown us anything, it's that revolutionary ideas don't always disappear when they fail. Sometimes they just wait. And when the world finally catches up, the inventions once labeled impossible suddenly feel inevitable. Maybe Wardenclyffe didn't fail because it couldn't work. Maybe it failed because the world wasn't ready to live with what it would mean if it did. And that's what makes Nikola Tesla's story so unsettling. Not the machines he built, or the towers that fell, but the timing. History often celebrates inventors after the world is ready for their ideas, not when those ideas first appear. Tesla may have simply arrived too early, carrying solutions for problems society hadn't yet admitted it had. Today, the conversation around energy is changing. Power grids are strained. Demand is skyrocketing. Climate concerns are forcing nations to rethink how electricity is produced and distributed. Wireless energy transfer, once dismissed as fantasy, is now quietly being researched in laboratories and universities around the world. Small steps, limited distances, controlled environments, nothing close to Tesla's dream, but the direction feels familiar. What's interesting is that modern discussions rarely mention Wardenclyffe, rarely mention Earth resonance, rarely mention Tesla's original vision in full. Instead, his ideas are broken into pieces, repackaged, and explored cautiously, as if touching the whole concept at once is still too uncomfortable. Tesla spent his final years alone, largely ignored, feeding pigeons and refining ideas no one would fund. The man who helped electrify the world died, believing his greatest work was unfinished. And maybe that's true. Maybe Wardenclyffe wasn't the end of his story, but a pause, because every time technology takes another step toward wireless power, global connectivity, or invisible infrastructure, Tesla's shadow appears again. not as a relic of the past, but as a reminder that progress isn't always blocked by what's impossible, but by what's inconvenient. So the question remains, was Wardenclyffe Tower a failure, or a warning, a glimpse of a future that challenged the very systems meant to support it? We may never know exactly what would have happened if Tesla had been allowed to finish his work. But one thing is certain, the dream didn't die with the tower. It's still waiting. And when someone finally finds the courage, resources, and timing to complete what Tesla started, the world may once again realize just how far ahead he truly was. And maybe then, the silence around Wardenclyffe will finally make sense, because silence is often louder than failure. If Wardenclyffe had simply been a misguided experiment, it would have faded into history like countless other abandoned ideas. Instead, it became a footnote people whisper about, a structure removed, not just physically, but conceptually, rarely taught in detail, rarely explored to its full extent, almost as if it's safer to remember Tesla for what already fits neatly into our world, rather than what could have shattered it. Tesla once said the present is theirs, but the future belongs to him. At the time, it sounded arrogant. Looking back, it sounds prophetic. Many of the technologies shaping modern life echo his early ideas in fragments: wireless communication, remote control, energy transfer without direct contact. Concepts once mocked, now normalized. Each time one of those ideas becomes reality, it raises an uncomfortable possibility. What else was he right about? Of course, there's no solid proof that Tesla unlocked unlimited energy, or that Wardenclyffe would have powered the world. Anyone claiming otherwise is speculating. But speculation exists for a reason. It fills the space left behind when questions go unanswered. And Wardenclyffe left more questions than almost any failed invention in history. Maybe the truth lies somewhere in between. Maybe Tesla's system wasn't perfect, but it pointed toward something real. Maybe it wasn't ready then, but it planted a seed that keeps resurfacing whenever humanity reaches another breaking point with energy, control, and access. One thing is hard to ignore. Every serious attempt to revive Tesla's vision seems to collapse, not when the science fails, but when money enters the conversation. That pattern doesn't prove anything on its own, but it does make the story harder to dismiss. In the end, Wardenclyffe Tower stands as a symbol, not of failure, but of possibility, a reminder that the most disruptive ideas aren't always destroyed because they're wrong, but because they arrive before the world knows how to live with them. And maybe the most unsettling thought of all is this: if Tesla were alive today, with modern materials, computing power, and global energy demands pushing us to the edge, he wouldn't be asking whether wireless global energy is possible. He'd be asking why we still haven't finished building the tower.